Hello and welcome to the Hannah Judson Beat. This is a podcast that explores the creative mind, work, and life of amazing, inspiring women. I'm Hannah Judson, and this week I'm talking to singer, songwriter, drummer, guitarist, and many other things, Janet Beveridge Bean. She's a founding member of 11th Dream Day and Freakwater, and she's a powerful contributor to the Chicago alt scene and alt rock, alt country and rock scene. Also, she has one of the most beautiful, memorable voices I know. So I'm really happy to have you here. Welcome to the show, Janet.
Hi, thanks for having me. Thanks.
Yeah, so my pleasure. So tell us first, where are you logging in from today?
I am logging in from the Indiana Dunes State Park, which is our newest state park in the country. And it's it's actually in Gary, Indiana, and it's one of the most biodiverse areas in the United States, second to Hawaii in orchids, actually. Oh. And so it's just bogs, it's dunes. I'm up on top of a very, very high sand dune. I have a home up here, and the Lake Michigan is just walking distance away, and it's just a really beautiful, remarkable place that's also right underneath the migratory path of birds and sandhill cranes, and it's really lovely.
It is really lovely. When I used to live in Chicago, from time to time, we would go down to Miller Beach sort of as a destination, a way to get out of the city. And I think that people who have never been to the Midwest or don't know that part of the world would be really surprised to see what it actually looks like there, that it really feels like you're on an ocean's coast. Mm-hmm. The lake feels that substantial and that there's waves.
Yeah, I think people are super confused by the idea of wooded dunes. Also, I met someone recently from the West Coast, and I was explaining it to her, and she's like, "That doesn't make any sense. What do you mean there are trees on the dunes?" Like, yeah, it's a little forest. It's really lush, but it's sand dunes. And so she did not believe me, and she had to look it up, and she found out it's a really interesting looking area. So it is really unusual. And you know, most of Indiana, in Chicago, and it's all flat, and this area is just super hilly. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, that is very cool. So as you've been, are you there to get out of the city during the pandemic?
Well, we've had this house here we've been living in North for about 14 years. We've had this house for about 12 years, but we came here regularly for all that time. But I did come here with my son. I have an adult son who has some special needs, and so it was a challenge to sort of get him to understand the masking thing, that it was serious. And so I thought, all right, I'm just going to bring him out here. We're going to relocate to out here in the dunes where, we have, we're up on a dune. And so if he doesn't wear his mask, it's going to be all right. We're all alone. And so we stayed here from about end of February, a year ago, end of February to about January. And then my husband and I had to relocate for some work for a little while. But we were here, and it was really lovely.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds like a really beautiful place to be during this season. So how's Chicago right now?
Well, it's beautiful because it's springtime. It's a really lovely city that way. It's still pretty cold here. It's like in the 40s today. So but it is sunny, which is nice. As far as the pandemic goes, people are still wearing their masks outside. We have a good population here that's vaccinated. I'm vaccinated. And even now, those that are vaccinated, I know the CDC says you can walk outside without a mask, but most people still have on masks. Occasionally at night when I walk the dog and I'm alone in the park in the city, I'll take off my mask, and it almost feels like, I'm doing something really taboo. and I'm going to get in trouble. But it also feels really great to have the air on your face again a little bit. So.
Yeah. There's really going to be a process of sort of the reentry, like thing by thing. Like, oh, am I supposed to be doing this? Am I supposed to be sitting out in a restaurant?
Yes, very much so. Everybody feels sort of just they're coming out of some sort of strange hibernation they've never taken before, so they don't really know what to do.
Yeah, right. So during this period of time, how was your creative life? Were you like, oh yay, it's a period of time to do stuff, or was it difficult to shift?
Well, I think it was all pretty overwhelming, I think, and I wasn't really in the creative headspace. But that said, I was 11th Dream Day had started a record and almost finished it right before the pandemic, right before lockdown, and then lockdown happened, and we hadn't really finished it. We had a lot of little extra things to put on, and so then over the course of the following 16 months, we were just adding little things on. So I was working and thinking about the songs, and we were discussing them, and I would go in and do some vocal parts, or somebody would add something. So I was involved in a creative process, but as far as sort of being inspired to do something new, that did not happen, really. I think all my energy was just living with my son and handling that, and just how do you get the groceries? What are you gonna, living out here, it was harder to, it was getting around the headspace of going to the grocery in Indiana, where a lot of people wouldn't wear a mask, so they're stressed out about that. So it was a lot of watching some really terrible TV with my son. The first half of the pandemic, and then when things kind of just seemed like I'd gotten used to it, I started writing. I started taking. I was asked to write something for a small literary magazine by a friend who was asked to be the editor for this magazine. So and at the same time, I was thinking of maybe a friend of mine was teaching a class at this, it's called the Night Bar School, and it's a really great online sort of all sorts of options for classes. And she's teaching a writing class. I said, all right, maybe I'll do that. And so that was great, and that got me out of sort of the rut of not creating something. And so I did a lot of short story writing. So that's sort of what I did. And learning Spanish. That was my other thing. My Spanish, learning a language, is what I was doing every day. I'm still doing it every day. So that was like where my creativity was coming from.
Yeah. So were you learning Spanish towards a goal or just interest?
Well, both. I live in a city where we have a very large Spanish-speaking population, and so it's really nice to be able to communicate that way. I also spend a good deal of time in Mexico, and it makes sense to be able to speak the language when you're there. And I just, I had taken languages in high school and college, but I don't know, it never really clicked. Oddly enough, all my tutors and things are like, oh, it'll be easy for you. You have a musical ear. You'll just be able to get it. But that is not the case. It is a very good lesson for me to stick with something I am not naturally good at.
It's good. Good for your brain, for sure. Like
yeah. It has been. I've had to learn a lot of functions of grammar that I didn't really understand the mechanics of. I just, you just sort of take it for granted because you speak the language, but just, yeah. So it was a lot to learn, but in a really exciting way.
Yeah. I think learning languages is difficult, especially, they say as you get older, it can be more difficult, but I don't know if that's just an excuse, but for sure, it's more than just your ear. There are so many things that you have to just commit to memory and just work your way through.
Mm-hmm.
But it is exciting. It's funny because today I received a letter in the mail from the President of the United States. It was a form letter, a PR letter, first side in English, talking about what he's been up to and the money he's been sending out and stuff. And the second side was in Spanish. And
I got that too.
Did you get that today?
Yeah, yesterday. Yeah, it was just to my son. We got, yeah.
Okay. So, but I think that is interesting. And I mean, we are a bilingual, the US is a bilingual nation now, but I don't know if we recognize that everywhere, but.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really just now I'm watching so many more films and shows in Spanish, and you realize how much you lose in the subtitles when you can actually understand the language. So were you fluent in French before you moved to France?
Yeah, I wasn't fluent, but I had a ton of French under my belt. So, but still, nonetheless, you have to learn there's so many layers of learning, like nuances of what people are really saying, or
exactly,
humor, or windshield wipers, or just words I never learned in the first time around. But it is exciting and definitely a challenge. But you also mentioned short story writing. Was that something you were doing before, and you just sort of needed a push to keep doing it, or was it that brand new?
Well, when I went to college, my first stint in college, that was my major, was creative writing. So I have done it all along. I have shelves and shelves of journals and writings and things that I always think I need to just put into a fire and burn. Or just say the property of my sister, so they think it's her, not me. I don't know. You don't want that stuff left behind. But I've always done it a little bit, but I hadn't done it in a very goal-oriented fashion in a long time. So, and it's such a strange process for me because the way that I've made music all my life, it's sort of, it's a group effort, but we are really protective of each other's, just how your own creativity, and we don't really critique each other too much. And so going into a class, and at the end, you have 10 people that you know nothing about. You don't know if it'd be like being in a band with 10 people and trying to write a song, and you all come from different places and probably have very different likes, and so being in a class and going through a workshop and having people that may or may not be your readers ultimately discuss with you your writing was a really strange process, I think, for me. I'm not sure I like it exactly. I mean, I think it's useful in that it can make you more confident about the things that you like in your own work, and the things that and then the people that are workshopping with you, that you sort of are drawn to their work, you kind of can listen to what they say. But it's a good thing to teach you how to be strong in your confidence about what you're doing, I think, and not just give in to a lot of outside pressure.
Right. And it's very interesting. The things that other people see, believe, and feel is interesting because other people see and believe and feel them. And then it's nice to know. And then also it's nice to not know.
Yeah, exactly.
So are you going to publish some of your short stories?
Well, the one that I was asked to do something by my friend, and so I sent that off, and that will be published, and I can't remember the name of the magazine right now. And yeah, I that's the idea, I suppose, is to work towards that goal of getting a collection of them together or something.
Yeah.
The story that I the story that I submitted is just a sweet story, and it was kind of surprising to me that it was just sort of a sweet story in a way, and that it was a story about a young girl and a dog, and it really would work for for tweens or something like that too. And that was kind of surprising to me that that's what ended up coming out. But I thought about maybe just a book of short stories for 13, 14-year-olds, or also something like that, which seems very odd for me to want to do, but I found that voice of a 13-year-old to be a really compelling way to express yourself.
Oh, wow. So are you thinking about yourself as a 13-year-old, or do you have sort of an avatar you go into when you're?
Well, both. I mean, I think, obviously, I think my ideas of what it's like to be, 10, 12, 13-year-old girl come from my own experience, but, it's just, it's a culmination of things, probably, yeah, no, I mean, it's some me, but not all.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's interesting. So your son is also a writer, and
Yeah.
earlier this week you sent me a link to his blog that I'm going to post. So has he always been writing? Did you encourage him to write, or was that a recent discovery?
No, as I mentioned, my son has challenges, and he has seizures, and he has some cognitive challenges and fine and gross motor skill challenges. He's got a very rare condition called GLUT1 transporter deficiency syndrome, and he would travel with us, and he was always fairly shy. I think I got him on the stage once to play tambourine, and that was about it. And then it was about, I don't know, maybe in his early 20s. I was away on tour or something, and he called me and he said, I just posted a house show. I'm having a house show at our house. I said, what are you doing? I don't know. He said, it's time I got it out. It's time I got the music out. So I was like, okay, well, let's wait until I get home, and then we can figure this out. And he did it, and he wrote these words, and he had this vision that was completely sort of Dadaist, and it was incredible, and it was just like came out of nowhere, and I was so utterly nervous, that he was going to have a seizure on stage, or something was going to happen, and it didn't, and he was just it was really moving, and it was so good for him. He adored it. He played shows here in Chicago. He opened up for sort of art symphonic metal guy called Wreckmeister Harmonies, and it was sold out show at the Empty Bottle, so 300-400 people, and he was up there doing his thing, and it was really powerful, and then he just kept on writing, and he calls them songs. He doesn't call them poems. He's only coming around now to calling them poems. He's like, they're songs, but they're about 4 lines long, and he writes every day, and we made a blog of it.
Yeah.
That you have, and yeah.
Supposed to
good.
Yeah. So his writing is really, so I read through the blog, and and those are his songs. That's
Yeah.
So they're beautiful, and he is creating a very clear internal landscape. He talks about like the space in his head. He talks about how he's experiencing things, and then he uses metaphors that are pretty exquisite. And I was going through the blog. I was like, I'm going to pull some of these out that are just great. I'll read some of them, but they're all excellent. Like, they're really good snapshots. And some of them I was like, I was counting. I was like, is he doing haiku? Is he count or maybe not? But some are like, if he's not going to do haiku, they're almost haiku, but they have that very sparse, direct, rich feeling.
Yeah, it's been a really beautiful lens into creativity for me to watch how his process for things. And when he was interested in poetry at first, we were getting him books of poetry, um, and then he wasn't getting into any of them. And then we gave him an E.E. Cummings anthology, and his mind just exploded. I think there was this idea of then all of a sudden I realized, oh, he's so drawn to modernist things, which are usually sort of the more challenging things for people to get purchase with. And he, I think the freedom of it, and it's all about just a feeling. It's not really like any sort of linear kind of notion that he's getting across. And and some of his metaphors are just because the sound of the word is something that he feels is appropriate. And it'll be because he'll be typing it in, and Google will suggest something. And he's like, I don't know that word, but that sounds really good. And then he just uses that. So I was reading something, I was like, how do you know about the appomattox of your soul? He's like, I don't know. I like that word, though. I was like, well, that's a really interesting, memorable metaphor to use there. So it's just it's really, it opened up my mind a bit of how language can just be a feeling.
Yeah. Well, he definitely has one foot in with the Dadaists and the Surrealists,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's also a very clean sort of reporting. I found,
so. Definitely. Sometimes, it's just like, today is this. Today is my hell day, or something.
Yeah, exactly. Very clear. So what do you think? Does he want to do anything with that, or is he at this point just getting it out?
I think that what he loves more than anything is the performance aspect on stage and playing. It's quite a visual. He performed with a friend of ours who plays Moog, and he wears a white hazmat suit, and he took foil and made a mask with horns over his face, and he puts his eyeglasses over it. And then he had Santo movies, the Mexican wrestling movies from the 50s, and he had them projected over him. And he plays the guitar on a organ stand, so it's laying flat. And he plays it with drumsticks, and he just screams. He's just like screaming, and it's really intense. He's talking in a real high voice or a real low voice, screaming, and it's incredibly riveting. And he has other friends of ours make backing tracks for him. So there are these really big industrial sort of backing tracks, and it's really quite powerful. And he loves doing that. He loves that.
Wow.
But we made a book of his poetry that we sold to raise money for the Glute One Foundation also. So I wanted to do that because that's obviously something I think that can be done forever, the writing part of it.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Very cool. So in your family, you are all making, doing, writing, performing, and producing art. So one of the things I wanted to also mention in our conversation was that 11th Dream Day, during the pandemic, you were finishing up your record, but you also released it just now in April.
Right.
And so will there be any record release party or tours or anything around that?
Well, 11th Dream Day really hasn't done any touring quite some time. We play one-off shows. Sometimes we'll go to New York or something and do something, and play in Chicago. But we haven't gone on like a full-fledged tour in some time. We do have. It'll be. I think it's not announced yet, but there are going to be 2 shows in late September. So, and those are indoor shows. So It'll be interesting to see if they actually get to happen or not.
Yeah.
So that's it right now. But it would be great to do some other things. This record is sort of a little bit mellower than ours. Well, a lot mellower than ours have been in the past. So it'd be fun to tour on it and just explore the space that the record has, the songs have.
Yeah, it would be great to tour on it. That would be so. The show that the two shows that may or may not happen are those in Chicago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are.
Are venues open at all right now?
I think John Langford, who no, he's a brave soul. I think he did something at Ginger Man for the opening of the Cubs season already. So I think there was something there. I don't know how many people were inside for the show. It's nothing much yet. Things are supposed to. Our mayor, Mayor Lloyd Lightfoot, says things will be open July 4th, and they're going to have some of the festival stuff that they do, but I think it probably won't be until later in the summer a little bit.
Yeah. Do you feel optimistic about that? Is it looking like things are moving in the right direction?
Yeah, I think so. So. I hope they continue that way. I mean, we've been through cycles of this a little bit, but this one, I think obviously the vaccine has made all the difference. Hopefully we can just convince everyone that isn't taking it, isn't getting it to get it.
Yep. There are a lot of. We're having a similar. It's completely different, but also in France, there are people who went out and got the vaccines, and there are people who are saying they are not going to. And so we'll see how it all pans out.
Yeah, but that certainly is. It's not new to this pandemic, that kind of fear of it. I was reading something on smallpox recently, and there were cartoons, anti-vaxxer cartoons for that, and the image was these people that had gotten the shot were all turning into cows because the vaccine had been developed through cow smallpox or something. So there's never a lack of stupidity.
Well, yeah. So definitely. So hopefully, one hopes that things can move in a good direction and gain speed and momentum and continue. We'll see how it all goes. These past years, and it seems like then it's decades and even more than decades, have been really difficult. So many different things have been going on in the U.S. and outside of the U.S. and then this has happened, and it's been interesting. This pandemic has been like a pause, and some of the reflection hopefully is going to be good, that people are reflecting and thinking, well, we can do things different in the future. But
yeah, it was a pause with some significant tumult as well, in the States here, with George Floyd and this and the really beautiful protest that came out of that, and where we're at with that, and then the Chauvin trial, and I mean, it's just been both really reflective and really energized. It's sort of like a strange combination, I think.
Yeah. It seems, at least from this vantage point, that things are more on the table than they've ever been. I could be wrong. But it seems like every time.
Like that.
What's that?
It feels like that to me, at least in my lifetime anyway. As an adult, it feels that way.
Yeah. So that's at least a movement forward, that things are being discussed and looked at, and kids growing up these days are growing up with this information.
Yeah.
So,
which is a good thing.
What's that?
Which is a good thing. It's a very good thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So very good. So what do you have coming up? In reality, or in your hopes and dreams? What after the pandemic and everybody's vaccinated and you're out there, what's next for you?
Well, Freakwater, my other band, we made a record with the Mekons a while back. The great band, the Mekons. So, and we called it the Freakons. So sort of a smash up thing. And um, the thread of it was that John Langford and the Mekons is from Wales, and Freakwater is from Kentucky, and sort of this link with the coal mining history, and we made this record with originals and some covers of songs all related to coal mining, and with the idea that the profits would go to an organization called Kentuckians for the Commonwealth, which works towards sort of diversifying the monoculture of mining and mountaintop removal mining in eastern Kentucky. And so we made the record. It's sort of a live, half live, half studio record a few years ago now. And it was just kind of sitting there. We hadn't really done anything with it. And we contacted a friend who has a label called Fluff and Gravy, and he said, yeah, we'll put it out. So it's coming out, and it's a really beautiful gatefold sleeve designed by this remarkable Belgian artist. And it's going to be out in July, and we're playing 2 shows for that at the Hideout in Chicago, outside, end of July. So that'll be fun. So everybody will come up here and we'll rehearse, and there'll be some madness involved.
Yeah. So would the Freakons ever make it over to this side of the Atlantic?
I think that's the idea. I mean, that things have obviously shifted a little bit with what's going on, but that was the plan, that we would go over to Wales and play some shows, and we would just use it as a vehicle to have some fun and raise some money for a good cause.
Yeah.
So
I'm hoping that happens.
What's that?
It would be great if that happens. That'd be good.
Well, yeah, it would be. It'd be fun to. I haven't played any shows. Well, since 2016, I think was the last time Freakwater was in Europe performing on our last record, which was 2016.
Yeah.
Have that, and then let's see what else.
So just to say, Alan Walters, who has joined our conversation, he says, "Please come to Wales." He's inviting us.
Okay. We will do our best. We will do our best. Yeah. And in theory, I'm supposed to have another project coming up. It was supposed to happen last winter, but that obviously that shut down. And that's with Robert Lloyd, who is just a fabulous human being and the lead of the Nightingales, which are a British fantastic band from the UK, and he was in a punk band called the Prefects, and just a great documentary out of him recently called Stuart Lee is with him in it, and it's something like King Rocker is what it's called. King Rocker. I recommend you guys watch it. It's really good. So we were supposed to go to Valencia and make a record last winter together, he and I, and that got put off. So hopefully that's going to happen. Maybe certainly wouldn't mind to go to Valencia in the winter. So
Spain.
Yeah.
Not right. Excellent.
Yeah, Spain.
Cool.
So that's all that's going on right now.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot. So things are slightly on pause, and every future plan sort of has a question mark by it, but things are moving forward.
Yeah, things are moving forward. If I was a really young band that had to stop a whole year of touring or something, I think this would have been really much harder. But where I'm at in my life and with my musical endeavors, and it didn't profoundly change things. It slowed things down a little bit, but not too much of a change, really.
Yeah. Very good. So you mentioned that you mentioned Kentucky, and I know that you were originally from Kentucky. So what was your musical start like? Were you in a musical family? Were you listening to how did it all start?
No, well, actually, I'm from Florida, and then I lived in Alabama, and then I went back to Florida, and then I moved to Kentucky when I was about 11.
Okay.
And no, I do not come from a musical family. My family have been zoologists involved in the world of zoos for 4 generations. No musicians.
Oh, wow.
And my older sister, she's was a school teacher and married a zoo director. And my younger sister is an environmental biologist. So they are all in a very different world than I was. I'm the odd middle child that got in trouble and went off and joined a punk rock band. Mm-hmm. So no, I started, in the classic way of playing an instrument when you're in school. And even at that point, though, I think I wanted to play like the instrument that nobody wanted to play. I was like, I'm going to play the trombone. In 5th grade, it's going to be the trombone. And I brought the trombone home and practiced for a couple of days. And my father said something about it not being ladylike enough or something, some really terrible thing. and so I took it back, and all the flutes had been taken by that point. So I ended up with clarinet, and I played the clarinet, which I love.
So did I. It was one of my.
Did that for a few years, and I desperately wanted to play piano, and my parents weren't super supportive of the music thing. I think I had to mow lawns to raise money to have lessons for piano and stuff, and they wouldn't buy a piano; they'd only rent one.
Yeah,
it's a very strange thing there, and I kept up with that, and then I don't know. I think I just always felt like I was searching for my people in a way, and when I turned about, I think it was 16, I knocked on with another friend of mine who was both searching for his people, and we knocked on the door of this sort of notorious and very rundown house in Louisville that was known as 1069, and it's where a bunch of art school students hung out and made punk rock music. And then the door opened, and I never left, and just started playing in bands like it's 16 at that point. And I hadn't played drums or anything, but it's just like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then just start playing them. And then so I was playing in bars really young at that point. And I think, that didn't fit real well with my parents' idea. And so I left my house I just turned 17, I think. I moved out. Then by the time I was just turned 18, I think, I moved to Chicago. I met Rick, who became my husband. We're divorced now, but and my bandmate in 11th Stream Day. And then I kept playing, but no, my family is not musical.
So does zoology ever come up in your structure or thinking or language or stories or lyrics? The family that you grew up in, are they in there?
Yeah, well, my the first band that I actually played the full drum kit, because my first band I was only allowed to play the hi-hat, I think, and the triangle or something. But, first band that I played full drums on, we were called the Zoo Directors, and so there was that. And yeah, it certainly has played a large role in my life. I've always, yeah. I don't know how it's informed my music or my creativity, but it is definitely a part of my story of who I am. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
We lived in zoos when I was little, so it was a very unusual way to grow up, to live inside of a zoo.
So I didn't know that was a thing. So the director's role comes with a house. Is that it?
It used to. It doesn't anymore. I don't think that really happens at all anymore, but it used to. In Chicago, my grandfather was and my great grandfather were both directors of the Brookfield Zoo, and they had a house on the grounds, and they lived there. In Alabama, I lived in not for a long time. Did we live there? But we lived in the zoo, and I have fond memories of it. But it's sort of an odd environment because you're a young child and you're around kids all day. None of them are your friends, and then they're all gone, and you're in this place with no kids, other than your family. So, yeah. So it's clearly it's had some sort of influence on me, but how I don't know.
Yeah, very interesting. So, do you have a favorite animal or an animal that you lean towards as with connection?
Hold my dogs.
Oh,
but as far as no, not particularly. I don't think I have mixed emotions about zoos, at this point now. I think they have served a valuable purpose, but on educating people. But I do have mixed emotions about it, and there's not really any animal at the zoo that I don't, if I'm visiting, that I don't look at and have just sort of am stunned by the beauty and the curiosity of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Neat. Yeah, I think definitely there's more information now about zoos. So there's more, the discussion about zoos has changed in the olden days.
Yeah, and they've shifted to to more natural habitats and things. But fundamentally, if they could just be in their natural habitat, it would all be better. So.
Yeah, that would be the ideal, that we could all be in our natural habitats. Very good. Well, excellent. So we have talked about some of your past projects, some about your starting point. We've talked a little bit about Chicago and where you are. And we've talked about your son and his work. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, no. I'm just looking out the window over here at a couple of really beautiful cardinals sitting on the branch. It looks real pretty. Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. So yeah, you are in a really lovely place right now. So I was going to ask you, of all the things that you're good at and everything, what is your superpower?
That's such a hard question. We on the road we'd always make up various superpower names for everybody. It'd be the equivocator, or just like funny names. And I don't know what mine would be. I suppose if I could have, I don't know, just the I don't know. You've stumped me. I don't know. I don't want a superpower. I don't even like superpowers. I think there's an imbalance when you have a superpower. I think I like sort of like a general doing okay across things. It just throws everything out of balance when you have a superpower.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So I've never looked at it that way, and I am in agreement with you. Very good. So you don't want to walk through walls or cloak yourself or fly.
No, it's got its own set of problems that I don't know about yet. So I don't want to venture into that territory.
Okay.
Just starting to figure out the problems that I have already. So I don't need to figure out new ones.
Right. Okay. So maybe your superpower is wisdom. Just
wow.
Based on your answer. Okay. Good. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a great discussion. You guys, thanks for joining us live. Those who have joined us live, nice to see you here again. And for those of you who are listening to this in podcast format, thank you for listening to the end. I'm Hannah Judson, and I'm going to continue having these conversations with amazing women in music and art and creativity. So, Janet, thank you so much for joining me
Thank
today.
you, Hannah.
And all of you guys, Alan, Andres, Cyrus, and others, thanks for joining us. See you later.
Ciao, ciao.